Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. A second video in one day. That's because there's a lot going on with Shadowlands here. We just got some generic legendaries released towards the beta, and I just wanted to take a peek at them. One of them in particular might be the most broken thing possibly introduced to the game. But anyways, here we go. Echo of Eonar. You summon a spirit familiar to your side. Your healing spells and abilities have a chance to send your familiar to a nearby ally, increasing their damage and healing by a certain amount. It's yet to be determined. If no allies are present, your familiar will flock towards your nearest enemy, increasing your damage against them by a certain amount. So overall, seems like pretty decent throughput or healing, so a legendary that you could flex between multiple specs, hence the generic legendary powers, I would imagine. Judgment of the Arbiter. Dealing damage has a high chance to release a blast of spiritual energy for a certain amount of holy damage. If another ally who bears the Judgment of the Arbiter is within 5 to 20 yards of you, the blast will also arc to them, dealing a certain amount of holy damage to enemies in the arc. Seems a little bit difficult to use. It's very similar to an Unholy Death Knight Azerite trait at the moment, where you connect this beam between you and your pet, and then it starts cutting people down. It seems a bit difficult to use in PvP. Really depends on how much damage it ends up doing as to whether or not it's going to be useful overall in the game, not just PvE. Norgannon's Sagicity. That is a tough one. Casting a spell grants Sagicity, stacking up to 10. I'm sure someone's going to let me know if I did that wrong. When you move, you are able to cast while moving for 0.5 seconds for each stack. A little bit interesting there. If you're playing a class that would like to move while cast, you could go for a legendary to allow it. I guess depending on the amount of damage output some specs can do without other legendaries, this might be a go-to. It could be fun in PvP. Move casting is always a very strong suit to have, because you can just move away from enemies or chase them down at the same time. So it could have potential, but it would be, in my mind, a pretty big risk to go after it, considering it's just potential. But I'll be testing it on the beta, seeing if I like it or not, and probably on Shadow Priest with it, or maybe even a healer. This is the one that I was looking at, and I was just like, what is happening? So recently they removed the Gladiator's Medallion Relentless in Adaptation, and they did that so they could turn the Gladiator's Medallion back into a trinket. This is a good benefit, because then that's going to be one less PvE trinket you're going to need to farm, because you're pretty much going to need to have a trinket in most cases. As I say that, though, this legendary might totally reverse that. So reduce the effectiveness of crowd controlling effects by 25%. Does this stack with things like the Kyrian Covenant, where you can reduce stuns by 25%, or the Venthyr Covenant, where you can reduce interrupts by 25%? Does it include interrupts? Could you have half the duration of interrupts if you were Venthyr with this legendary and a caster? That's infinitely more value than move while casting. Just interrupts are half. It basically turns every interrupt into a wind shear. Successfully applying a loss of control effect to an enemy, or interrupting an enemy, or dispelling them will just grant you some secondary stats. So you do get damage out of it, and you just get this constant. So in my mind, in PvP, think about the combination too. They nerfed things like Relentless not working with Orc Hardiness, and they nerfed Gladiator's Medallion not working with the human racial to get out of stuns. But now are they going to make the same conditions for the legendary? Because as it stands right now, it doesn't. So you could be a human with Sephuz, everything is reduced, and you get to trinket out of stuns, and you could wear the Gladiator's Medallion as a PvP trinket if you wanted, or you could just dump it and get a really powerful PvE trinket, have reduced crowd control, 50% less interrupts, get out of stuns so you don't die, and do insane damage with a trinket. I mean, this is easily like the best legendary right now for PvP. There's no argument, especially if it stacks with other crowd control reducing effects. Moving forward, the last couple are not nearly as exciting. Stable Phantasma Lure increases Phantasma earned by 25%. Looting Phantasma from enemies has a chance to summon the demon. So this is likely, I would imagine they're going to tune this to be the best Torghast legendary. So if you're someone who really wants to go hardcore in Torghast, I would think that they're going to make this the best Torghast one. So if you want to cater yourself to that play style, you're going to get a really big benefit. But obviously for the rest of the game, doesn't really do too much, right? Doesn't do anything, actually. Third Eye of the Jailer. Killing a creature in the maw increases your damage by a certain amount. Killing a creature with the same continues to stack this effect. So this is like a world quest legendary effect. So if you want to do world PvP, does it count if you kill a player in the maw and then stacks? I mean, if it could, that could be really insane. But again, outside of like the competitive modes of the game, that's its only real benefit, right? And then Vitality Sacrifice. The first time you damage an elite enemy, absorb the next certain amount of damage from that enemy and reflect it back to them. This effect cannot occur until your current absorb has been depleted. So is a player considered an elite enemy? If so, you could run the Necrolord Covenant, be immune to their crowd control with a shield, while also reflecting damage back at them. Could be pretty good. Could be like a sleeper legendary, possibly, if it works on players, right? This is elite enemy, so it's not specific. But after just taking a quick glance at these new legendaries, we got a /1 contender for the best PvP legendary right here. Right there. So I'm gonna try and get my hands on that on the beta as soon as possible. Twitch.tv/Supatease and give this a go if it's available, and make sure if it's got synergy with other crowd control reducing effects, because this is pretty crazy. All right, that's going to be it for me in this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you liked it, please leave a like. Please leave a comment down below what you think of these new legendary effects, if you're going to be using any of them, and subscribe to the channel so that you can be notified when my videos go live. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.